So it's basically spring, which means that we, myself included, are in the mindset of getting our whole lives together by summer. The home, the body, the routine, the glow up, the reset, all the things. But after doing this for several years and failing many, many times, here's the truth: wanting change isn't what actually changes your life. In fact, by summer, you will be in the exact same place you are today with warmer weather unless you do one thing: raise your standards. People who successfully level up their lives by decluttering their homes, losing the weight, going back to school, starting the business, making new moves, whatever the case may be, they simply decide that certain things are no longer acceptable. And once I understood that, everything started changing for me. Now, I have some goals for this summer, and because I want all of my girls to be successful too, for the next few months on this channel, we are doing something called the Level Up by Summer series. Every single week, we are raising one standard in our lives so that by summer, we have reinvented ourselves and leveled up our whole lives. Let's get into it. We're gonna start this off right, and I want all of us to be on the same page, so we're gonna talk about three things. First, what it means to raise your standards and why it is the only way to change your life. Second, I'm going to introduce the structure of this Level Up by Summer series so that you know exactly how we are going to do this together over the next few months. And third, because I don't waste any videos, we are diving right in with the first standard that we are raising, which is our environment, and how small changes here will immediately shift your mindset and momentum. So let's go ahead and dive into that first part about what raising your standards actually means. We often think it means doing more, being more productive, having a lot more routines and more discipline and more pressure, but that's not actually what raising your standards is about. Raising your standards simply means deciding what is no longer acceptable in your life. It's a line that you draw, a moment where you say, this is not how I live anymore. And when that line becomes real for you, your behavior starts changing almost automatically because you're no longer negotiating with yourself. You are no longer saying things like, should I? Well, am I? Will I? What if it's hard? What if I mess up? Also, you don't need anybody else to co-sign it with you for you to be committed to it. You start saying, this is just what I do now. This works because raising your standards shifts you into a completely new identity, which is what leads to change. The thing is, we never consistently operate outside of how we see ourselves. Your habits, your environment, your routines, they almost always reflect the identity that you believe that you have. So when you raise your standards, what you're doing is intentionally stepping into the identity of the person that you're becoming. The way that I have learned to do this in my own life is by filtering things through what I call a privileged mindset. I talk about it a lot on this channel because I filter almost everything in my life through that lens. Now, if you're new here or you just need a refresher, when I say privileged mindset, I'm not talking about money or status or having some ugly entitled attitude where you feel better than everyone else. I'm talking about the mindset of someone who recognizes that they are worthy and can have access to opportunities that will allow them to grow and to change and to build a life that aligns with the person that they want to become. So when I look at my habits and my environments, my routines, I ask myself, what would the woman that I'm becoming accept as normal? And what would she raise the standard on? This shows up in really practical ways. So for example, someone who raises the standard for their environment stops accepting clutter as their normal because they don't identify as a cluttered person. Someone who raises the standard for their body stops accepting habits that drain their energy or that go against how they want to be. Someone who raises the standard for their time stops filling up their life with things that don't actually move them forward. Someone who raises the standards for their mindset stops talking about themselves in ways that keeps them small. It's not about perfection, but really about deciding that the version of you that you want to be just operates on a completely different playing field. For me, this is what actually started changing my life several years ago. It first started when I decided that I wanted to do something different with my career, which led me to make a huge leap of faith at that time that opened doors and connected me with people. And it helped me to see how I had been thinking of myself in a way that just didn't match the woman that I wanted to become. It led me to raising the standard in every part of my life: my time, my health, my habits, my environments, truly everything. Once I started seeing that shift in my own life, I realized that you don't actually have to reinvent your whole life overnight. In fact, that's not even going to be the way it happens. You just have to start raising the standard one area at a time. When you do that consistently, those small shifts, they start stacking. And before you know it, your life looks completely different. Now, here is the Level Up by Summer series structure. For the next few months on this channel, this is exactly what we are going to do together. Every week, we are going to raise one standard in our lives. One area, one shift, one decision about what is no longer acceptable for the women that we're becoming. How and what you need to do to level up will be slightly different for everyone watching this. For some of you, it might mean finally getting your home under control. For others, it might mean getting serious about your health or your career or your finances or your faith. But the standards that create change are actually going to be the same for all of us. When you stack those standards week by week, yes, your habits will change, but more importantly, you'll change your identity. You change how you see yourself. You change what you believe about yourself, and you increase your capacity to do more. And like I said, that is how real transformation happens. And so every video in this series, I will introduce a level up standard for the week. Something small, something practical, something that moves your life forward. You'll have a chance to commit to it in the comments. I'm also going to highlight wins from people in the community who actually did it, because we're not just talking about leveling up. We're doing it together. That brings me to the first standard that we are raising to level up, which is our environment. I like starting here because it's actually one of the easiest wins, and most people don't realize that your environment subtly shapes and reflects how you think about yourself. The space that you live in, the things that you keep around you, even the way that your home feels when you walk into it, all of that is reinforcing an identity. And it either supports the woman that you're becoming, or it supports the version of you that you are working to outgrow. See, our environments send us signals all day long about what's normal for us. If your environment is chaotic and cluttered and full of things that drain your energy, your brain starts to normalize that. Chaos and clutter become the standard, where even when you want better, you always revert back to that until you decide that that can't be the standard anymore. So for example, you could have someone come and throw out everything and have a completely fresh start, but if clean, tidy, and chill doesn't fit with how you've become accustomed to seeing yourself, you default back to the chaos every single time. So you have to change the standard. When you start intentionally shaping your environment to support the life that you actually want, your behavior naturally begins to shift, because you're consciously making the environment reflect the standard that you've decided on. It was something that happened with me when I started decluttering. I realized that I had normalized having a bunch of cheap crap that I didn't really want, just so that I could have enough stuff so that I wouldn't run out of things. And even though my life circumstances were in a completely different place, I was still defaulting to buying and having a bunch of cheap stuff. Part of me hadn't fully assumed this new identity, so I had to raise the standard in that area. If you're new here, you will find out that decluttering became a whole therapy session for me that we're not even going to get into today. But if you stick around through these next 3 months, you will have your own revelations, and I cannot wait to hear about them. And so that is a really nice segue into this week's level up standard. You're going to set up one space in your environment for success, not your whole house, not a huge project, just one space. For some of you, that is going to look like clearing something. Maybe it is a drawer or a closet shelf, your car, your nightstand, your desk. Maybe it's your phone. For others, it is going to look like setting up your environment to support a goal that you have. So, for example, if your goal is to improve your health, maybe you set up your kitchen in a way that makes healthy choices easier. You throw out all of the junk and the snack food and the things that make your life harder for your health goals. If your goal is to start a business, maybe you create a small workspace that signals to your brain, this is where I show up for this thing. If your goal is to get more organized with your time, maybe you clear and reset the place where you plan your week. If your goal is to start showing up differently in your life, I want you to ask yourself, what environment would support that version of me? And then start there. That is your standard for the week. Again, the goal is not perfection. The goal is to raise the standard for the one area that you interact with every single day. Because when you start changing the environment around you, you will find that your mindset starts to follow. And when your mindset shifts, your behavior starts moving in that direction too. Now, if you are doing this series with me, I want to know. So comment level up so that I know that you are in, and then tell me how you are going to raise the standard in your environment this week. I am so excited to do this and so excited to see what it is that you come up with. I also have a little bit of something, a little Easter egg, if you will, for those of you who have stayed until the end. If you want to track this with me, I made a simple 90-day level up tracker that you can download for free. It's just a place where you can check off the standards that we are working on each week so that you can actually see the progress that you are making over the next 3 months. That is linked below, so go ahead and grab your copy. I want to reinforce this because I know that a lot of you are like me and want to just go hard in the paint and just do all the things. We are not trying to change everything overnight. We are simply raising the standard in one area at a time. And if you stick with me over these next several months, I really do believe that you will have completely reinvented yourself in every part of your life by the summer. If you've been here for a while, you know that we talk a lot about decluttering over here. But in my heart, this has never really been about having less stuff. I mean, it's cool and all, but that's never what this has been about. It's been about working toward the highest, most leveled up versions of ourselves, which means getting rid of anything that doesn't allow us to do that. And I think a lot of you are ready for the next level of that. So this week, I am inviting you to start raising the standard and come back next week where we will raise another. Oh, and whenever you see this video, you can just jump right in because it is never too late to raise your standards and level up. So that is all. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like and share it with someone else who needs it. Also, if you're not subscribed, like, what are you doing? I'm gonna need you to jump on that. Alrighty, my friends, I love you so much. I am so looking forward to these next 3 months, and I will see you in my next video. Mwah! Bye for now. We are just on time to live the life of our dreams. Oh my goodness, I haven't said that in so long, but it feels so incredibly appropriate and good for today because we are kicking off this Level Up by Summer series.